How long have you been doing the podcast?
14 years? Is it almost 14 years? 13 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Crazy.
That must be one of the first ones that you have here.
The first one was Adam Curry. He was number one. He's the Podfather. And then Corolla had one when he left radio, and Mark Maron had one, and there was a couple other that I had heard about, but it was Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith had one real early on, but it was fairly small amount of people.
And what drew you to it?
Just having fun. What drew me to it was like I used to like to do radio. I used to like to do like Opie and Anthony because it was a bunch of comics hanging around. Yeah. And it was like Jim Norton and Rich Voss. We would just hang out and talk shit and just laugh. And it was so much fun. I would look forward to doing it every time I went to New York. I couldn't wait to do the morning radio because I get to hang with these comedians and just laugh.
Jim Norton's hilarious.
He's the best. I love him. But it's like it was a camaraderie thing. It was a fun thing. We just would always leave there. Like Ari Shaffir and I would do it all together all the time. And we would leave and we'd just be laughing like, wah! It was just so much fun. And then the idea came. I'd seen Anthony Cumia from Opie and Anthony. He had his own show that he was doing in his basement online. And Tom Green had his own show online. So I was watching a few other people do things. And I was like, why don't I just try something? Just have a webcam show. Just do it just for the fucking fun of it. Like, just let's see what happens. We started doing that.
You were doing it with your friend?
Yeah, my friend Brian. And then I would bring in comedians like Tom Segura and Joey Diaz and Duncan Trussell and Ari Shaffir. And then it just became all of a sudden I have guests, and all of a sudden I have scientists, and all of a sudden I have authors and psychologists and physicians, and it was weird. It just like slowly became this thing that it is now.
You started in Los Angeles?
Yeah. Started in I just had a spare bedroom that I just like set up.
Like, how did you, you had the comedians and stuff, but then how did it go to like scientists? How did that happen?
I started, the podcast became fairly popular in podcasts. By fairly popular, thousands of downloads, nothing like it is now. But it was enough so that I could convince people, hey, here's this episode. Would you like to do my podcast? Like, check it out. This is what we do. And they would do like, oh, you guys are silly. Like, what are you doing? You're sitting around smoking pot and talking shit about things? Like, yeah. Do you want to come?
Yes.
And a lot of people said yes. Like Anthony Bourdain, he was an early one. He said yes.
Oh, yeah.
Graham Hancock. And so Graham Hancock was like the first real one. Because Graham Hancock is a journalist, and he specializes in ancient civilizations and the demise of ancient civilizations, and that there's evidence that shows that there is likely some sort of a natural catastrophe that took place around 11,800 to 12,000 years ago that wiped out civilization. And all the civilization that we think about, like Babylonia and Mesopotamia, those were probably reboots of an old civilization that was destroyed by asteroid impacts. There's like all this physical evidence. It's called the Younger Dryas impact theory. There's core samples they do where they find iridium at around 11,800 years, which is like very common in space, very rare on Earth, but there's a large layer of it. And microdiamonds, which indicate impacts from the asteroid. So we probably went through an asteroid shower, and it probably destroyed civilization somewhere around 11,800 years ago. Ended the Ice Age. So Graham Hancock, he has Ancient Catastrophe, which is on Netflix. This whole series on that where you can like follow the evidence, the physical evidence and the archaeological evidence of these ancient civilizations, these ancient construction methods that to this day we still don't understand, like how they moved these enormous stones, how they placed them, how they even cut them. We don't know what tools they were using. We don't know anything.
How did you get him to come on?
I was a giant fan of his, and I would always like sing his praises when I would do radio shows and stuff. I'd tell people about this book he wrote called Fingerprints of the Gods, an amazing book. It just shows all this evidence of these ancient cultures that just don't exist anymore, including like sunken cities off the coast of Japan that like there wasn't water there. Or there was ground there at one point in time, thousands and thousands of years ago, and they think that there was actually a city there, and now it's covered by the ocean. There's a bunch of those that they find out there in the water. There's a lot of indications that there was like really advanced civilization like 12,000, 20,000 years ago.
And
So that guy was like one of the first guests.
And you have Neil deGrasse.
Yeah, I've had him on multiple
times. Is he a nice guy?
He's a very nice guy. Yeah, he's a very nice guy.